This is the All About Nothing podcast. Barrett Gruber. We got Zac Keene and our guest, King. Sorry, I'm going to make sure I pronounce everyone's names correctly. As well, we have our guest this week, Belinda Timmons, who is running for Senate District 31 here in South Carolina. I wanted to react, and I guess I wanted to react to the shooting in Georgia, and for a couple reasons. One, it's really disappointing that we have yet another school shooting that has made national news. We're only into the school season in Georgia. I think they started almost right before August, so they've been in for over a month. This particular school, Appalachia High School, is about a mile and a half from where my mother lives, and as it's being reported right now, 4 dead, 9 injured. There are no details on the victims that have been released yet. Less than 2 miles away from where my mother lives, and it's literally 4 turns from where she lives. It's in Winder, Georgia. The first full-time radio and TV gigs I ever got were at WIMO AM 1300 in Winder. It was a small radio station where I got my first morning show. That later moved into a DJ VJ position at a TV station where I did news and sales. And at that TV station, because they had just built and completed Appalachia High School, I got the opportunity to do football play-by-play for the nightly news, or the Friday night football. And so I have a special connection to Appalachia High School because that was where I did my first commentating. And I've already cried several times over this. But this is the symptom of ignorance in our country in respect to what guns can do, and how when we don't properly respect the power of the guns, this is what happens. And out of that respect, my opinion is that we need more stringent gun laws, or else we're going to continue to have these situations. We need background checks. We need responsible gun ownership, even in my opinion, again, in the form of gun insurance, firearm insurance that makes you responsible. You have to pay for that responsibility. It's the same as owning a car, in my opinion. And I wanted to just comment on it and say that I have family that has children that go to Appalachia High School. Their children are all accounted for, but not everyone's child is accounted for tonight. And purely out of respect for them, I just wanted to go on and do a little quick live to say that I don't know how it gets better, because in this country, we have such a love for guns that it outweighs the responsibility, and it outweighs what it is that those guns affect. And I don't know how to make it more clear, but these types of events are going to continue to get closer and closer to home, and they're going to affect every single one of us personally. And that's what I needed to say it. And I need for people to take a look at themselves and acknowledge what it would be like to go home tonight to a missing place at the dinner table, because that's what this is. There are 4 families now that have missing people at their dinner table, and it's not going to get better until we acknowledge that responsibility of owning firearms is it's an awesome responsibility, and we love our guns. We do. I have guns, but they're responsibly taken care of, and my children know that the gun is not a tool for fun. It's not. And I don't know what was in the mind of this 14-year-old that committed this atrocity. He's been taken into custody, and my hope is that they'll get some answers, and maybe someone can get some sort of build a profile off of something like this, because a lot of the time we don't get the benefit of the shooter being alive to be questioned. Hope that everyone just holds their children a little closer tonight, because that's what several families won't get to do. So we are going to have a great show. We'll have our guest Belinda Timmons here. Thanks a lot.
Hi, it's me from the Welcome to Wonderland podcast. Are you looking for the perfect blend of nostalgia and patriotism in your wardrobe? Look no further than ZJZ Designs, available now at zjzdesigns.com. Their exclusive t-shirt collection features stunning designs like the iconic Plymouth Barracuda print, taking you back to the golden era of muscle cars. Show your love for your country with their bold patriotic heart designs that stand out and make a statement. From car enthusiast to proud patriot, ZJZ Designs has something special just for you. Head to ZJZ Designs and elevate your style. Visit zjzdesigns.com or check the show notes.
The All About Nothing podcast may have language and content
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to another episode of the All About Nothing podcast. This is episode number 223. I am Barrett Gruber.
Zac King.
All right, Zac, welcome. Hope you've had a good week. Please subscribe and share the show. That's how we get new listeners. Also, if you could, please consider supporting the show financially by visiting our website and clicking on the support link. If you can't do that, please drop us a review, hit the 5 stars, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. All of that helps drive us higher in the ratings on all of these podcast platforms. Want to thank, real quick, John Kosas Jr., Broadcast and Media Relations Manager for the Columbia Fireflies, for our Nothing or Fire update each week here on the All About Nothing podcast. That is exclusive here. We are the only people that do it. Radio, podcasts, all combined. That's it. It's us. The Firefly season is probably wrapped up by now, at least the regular season. It was a good season. Besides that, I also want to thank David Robinson II, Democratic candidate for SC Congressional District 2. Phenomenal guest. We look forward to talking to David again soon, especially after he gets elected and beats Joe Wilson. That's not a prognostication. That's just a hopefulness. That's all I got.
And I'll tell you, Barrett, I'm here physically, but my brain is a pile of mush.
Oh, yeah. What are you going through?
My current vocation is wringing out my last 2 weeks, wringing out of my soul and everything I have.
Yeah.
They're making me earn that last paycheck before I get like 6 days off to move to my new career.
my regular job is doing that to me, so I completely understand. I completely understand.
Got bags and a pregnant wife. It's all 3-year-old job, pregnant wife. It's just
it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. That's all right. You'll get through it. So I want to welcome our guest this week. It is Belinda Timmons, the Senate District 31 candidate, Democratic candidate for South Carolina Senate District 31. Welcome, Belinda Timmons, to the show.
Welcome.
Barrett and Zac, for having me on your show. Thank you so much.
It has it's been a time trying to get you on. We had a hurricane.
I know.
I guess you all lost power completely?
Well, not completely, but
okay.
Again, with me being new to the podcast and the internet, I'm like, let's not take a chance.
For sure.
I understand. So first of all, I want to tell everybody, so Florence County is basically South Carolina 31, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And your website, belinda4senate.com, is where people can go and check out your platform, information about you. And we'll make sure to reiterate that through the recording. But tell us, I guess, give us a reason why it is that you've decided that you're going to run for Senate.
Okay, that's a good question. And I've been asked that question many times. So, been in government nearly 40 years. Also been on the bench almost 20. So being on the bench, being a judge, there's so many things that I've got to witness that just when you were saying earlier, when you were dealing with the shooting, that really breaks your heart.
Yeah.
And at some point, I was like, my hands are tied. As judges, we interpret the law. So we have strict guidelines that we have to go by. We take an oath. So we're just there to interpret the law. So as I would sit on the bench and I would see people come in broken. And just like the shooting today, you have a broken family as well with the 14-year-old. And you have the broken family that lost their loved ones.
Yeah.
And at some point, we have to say, when is enough enough? And that was one of my biggest reasons that I said, Belinda, you're not being what you need to be on the bench. So that's when I decided to say, you know what? If I've been on the bench nearly 20 years interpreting the law, I know I will make a hell of a lawmaker to make the laws
Yeah,
because I see it firsthand.
that's an
yeah.
exceptional experience as far as because what your experience on the bench is magistrate and then am I right?
Magistrate.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So like magistrate judges get to hear cases, everything from drunk driving or speeding tickets, I guess sometimes child support. I think those come
We
into
don't
it.
hear child support.
No.
We hear the eviction, civil cases. And with me, for 18 of those years almost, I was the bond court judge.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was housed at the jail. So being the bond court judge, I got to see all of the crime.
Oh yeah.
And I was the one that did the arrest warrant. So basically, I saw the crime that was in the community, being the bond court judge.
And I guess, the decisions that you had to make would put people in jail or allow them to reconcile things outside of the system. It takes a level of compassion to be a judge like that.
Very much so. And I did not realize, because the last year or two, I went to the main office because I was the chief magistrate. So I went to the main office. And when I went to the main office, I did not realize how much stress I was under until I got from up under it. And I said, wow, I've been carrying this stress, the weight of the people, for nearly 18 years doing bond. Because when they come before me with bond court, they're innocent. It's just a charge. So there's laws that we have to apply for the bond court procedure. A lot of times, people will come in and say, hey, I want a conviction, but we don't convict at bond court. Bond court is just basically giving them their rights, telling them what they're being charged with, and setting the bond accordingly.
Before you,
and it's
go ahead.
difficult. I'm sorry. It's difficult sometimes. And we didn't set bond on like murder charges. We just did the arraignment, but we didn't do bond for murder and very violent charges. But we did enough bond on, like burglary, assault and battery, high and aggravated. We have the pleasure, if we decided to set those bonds. But just to come in and say, hey, I get to decide whether this person go home or whether this person doesn't go home. Then you have the family that they have their take on. Then you have the victim side. And then I've also have to weigh, this person is innocent until proven guilty, and bond cannot be for punishment. It's just to make sure that they return to court on the date and time.
Yeah. Sure. And it says here, so some of our notes indicates you got your master's degree in social work from the University of South Carolina.
That's correct.
I'm going to let Zach ask the question that I know he wants to ask.
I'm like a fan. I'm a fan. I take it you're a Gamecock fan.
I am.
Okay. Perfect. You're one of our best guests of all time now. You know how many fence sitting people we get on here? They're like, well, I don't want to. Well, no. There's only one right answer in the state of South Carolina. And it is the University of South Carolina.
There you
That's
go.
it. The university.
During your college, it says you were a page for Senator John Charles Lindsay, Sr. What was
Jack
that?
Lindsay.
What was that experience like?
Well, it depends on how old you are. If you remember Senator Jack Lindsay.
I'm not far behind you.
I was about to say Barrett was probably there when he was born.
Well, Jack Lindsay, I would say in a nice way. And also, Senator Leatherman, wonderful senator. Senator Jack Lindsay was the Senator Leatherman in his day. That he was the one that got everything done. And when Senator Jack Lindsay say, let's move it, that's what happened. And I was his page.
I can't
So
even.
I got to see a lot.
I can't imagine what it's like to be a page, and then trying to imagine what it's like to be a page now, because I know at the Senate, at the House down here in Columbia now, you've got TV cameras and reporters on that literally stay on the grounds all the time, especially for some House representative to say some nonsense or news to break about something that they've done that is completely the opposite of what stances they have. So not to get specific.
Well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say the government was a lot different then than it is now.
Yeah.
They really worked together and was able to get things passed.
Yeah.
That a lot of times we're not seeing that anymore.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot, like you say, they were willing to work together. Even though they may have differences, they were able to come to a common ground.
Yeah. We don't seem to have that now, especially without,
Exactly.
because how many women senators are currently representing in the South Carolina Senate now after the recent elections?
We only have 2.
Yeah.
We had 2 of them lost their seat and one decided not to run again.
Yeah.
So right now we only have 2 that's in the Senate.
And that is a scary position to be in for the state of South Carolina because of the number of laws that our legislature seems to want to push on women.
The
fact that
very scary.
Women are so underrepresented that it's a frightening situation to think that, these draconian abortion laws, the privacy laws for our health and things like that are basically just going to get breezed right through without the proper representation, the individual. The Senate sisters have basically been dissolved. And
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, with women's rights, and we talk about it all the time. I'm like, how can an individual, especially a man, don't have anything against men at all, but how can you determine and say what a woman can do with their body? I mean, it makes no sense. I had a person I was talking to, which, a man, and we were talking about, the abortion law. So I said, you know what? Just talking. Why don't we just decide to say men will have a vasectomy? He thought I had lost my mind.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing about a woman.
You put a shoe on the other foot, it is not taken away.
Yeah.
It's like it was like that I was talking crazy when I said that.
Mm-hmm.
But I said it's the same thing that you're saying about women.
And a woman can't even get a hysterectomy. Like they could be declined if you haven't had any children.
Exactly.
That's someone's right to do it to their body. If people can put holes in their head and ear, like whatever, but you can't do what you want when it comes to your reproductive rights.
Exactly.
That is insane. Don't not even to mention the pink tax on everything, which just blows my mind as well.
Yeah.
Being a woman, I would say there's no woman that just get up in the morning and say, "Oh, I think I'm gonna have an abortion today."
Right.
That is not how that works.
No,
it is
absolutely not. No, in fact,
it's not.
Just because I know that there are people out there that have their own ideas of abortion and things like that. I recently did some research, and I'm trying to pull it up at the same time that I'm talking about it.
And Barrett and I try not to make it a man's only echo chamber, so we're really appreciative to have a woman like such as yourself on here to speak about it, because we have opinions, but we need a woman's voice to be like, you guys are either this close to the target or how far off.
It's an emotional. I have people that I've known that had an abortion, and it wasn't because they wanted to have an abortion. It was medical reasons. And that has lingered with them forever. This is a child that they wanted. And then it's going to make it sound like, oh, women just going around killing babies.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I had a family member who he was with a woman, and then they had to have an abortion, and it lingered with him till his last day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just it's not a decision people take lightly. Which
It's not.
it's
It
painted
is
that way
not.
by the far right. It is painted that way as
Yeah.
a wake up or go into Carowinds kind of moment. It's calm down. It's
No,
not that.
it's not
Yeah.
that easy. It's not.
So just
And that's
just
why we need more women to really help the
Yeah.
men understand what
Yeah.
they're actually doing.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think men have ruled the world long enough. I'm ready for the women to take over.
lot of mistakes made over the last 10,000 years for sure.
Mhm.
Yes.
So just to put it out there, according to data from the CDC and Pew Research, 21 weeks of gestation, any abortions performed over 21 weeks, almost extremely rare. According to data from the CDC and other research, they account for about 1% of all abortions. Most abortions, 93%, occurred within the first trimester, which is up to 13 weeks of gestation. Only 7 occur after the first trimester, with 3 occurring between 16 and 20 weeks. After 21 weeks, it's almost never heard of unless it's a medical reason.
Exactly.
The data on abortion statistics that comes from sources that were published in 2024. So that's the Kaiser Family Foundation that provided that as well. So I'm just citing CDC, the Supreme Court Dobbs decision 2022. Some of this information was used in the decision making there as well. But essentially, this idea that people are using abortions as some sort of a government funded birth control is absurd. It's not taking place. And the South Carolina, as well as several other states across the country, have what is either a no abortion at all, or in South Carolina, we have a 6-week ban. So after 6 weeks,
ban.
you can't get an abortion here in South Carolina. It is illegal. And I know at one point there was talk about how the state of South Carolina wanted to prosecute doctors and prosecute women for these abortions. I'm not sure where we stand on that right now, besides them just not being available. But as a senator representing your district, what would be your approach as far as trying to get those men to understand that abortions are a medically necessary part of a woman's health?
Well, and I take things really simple. My first question would be, have you sat down and talked with your family, your wife, your daughter, to really get a full understanding of what you're actually trying to do?
Right.
That's number one, because a lot of times when you're trying to get something done, you listen to your family. You will
Yeah.
sit down with an open mind to really hear what really is going on. And that's the number one step. Have you sat down with your wife and really say, hey, let's talk about this? Have you sat down with your daughter and say, let's talk about this? That would be my first approach. Because if you're not going to listen to them, it's going to be pretty hard for you to listen to me.
Yeah.
Because they're your loved ones. And they're the ones that can open up your heart, open up your mind to look at it in a different way. So
Talk to your mama too while you're at it.
I know it sounds simple, but if you're not listening to your household around the kitchen table, it's going to be very difficult for me to convince you of anything. So that's a common start. To sit down with your loved ones.
That's perfect.
I wonder if you could potentially get the wives and daughters into a committee of these senators that have already voted to pass a 6-week abortion. I wonder if it's possible in front of a committee to get their loved ones to potentially sit down and be questioned, and because it doesn't seem to do any good to bring experts like doctors and things in.
That's what I'm
bring
saying.
professionals.
So if the doctor can't convince you, you have to experience it yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel it, if you do not feel it, it's hard for you to imagine it. And the only way they're going to understand it they're going to have to feel it emotionally because they're detached from it. And it's easy to make a decision when you're detached because you
Right.
don't have any buy in it. You're just looking at it from a political standpoint, and that's it. And that's how this is being taken. Purely political. No other reason.
I think that's a perfect point because just like you're saying, go speak to the female members of your family, the people it does affect, it will affect, could affect it, and they do look at it as a political option more than anything else because even when they put LGBTQ plus laws out there, it doesn't affect them. It's a political thing. They put religious laws out there. It doesn't
Exactly.
affect them. They already agree with what they agree with. They're not looking outside of that box and
Exactly.
testing their boundaries and worldviews and finding out what other people actually think. They're doing what the people in their party is aligned to do. Let's keep with the status quo. Don't go outside the box. I think that's a great idea.
And when I'm making decisions, and the reason why I can say that so openly, when I'm making a decision, I put myself there. I put my family there. And that helps me guide my decision. How would this affect me or my family? And
Right.
that's how I start with guiding my decisions.
There's a lot of empathy
I think every
there.
leader needs that empathy. Yeah, exactly. To have that empathetic point of view to put yourself in those shoes. We need more people like you who are willing to do that.
Yeah, I in I guess adjacent to abortion, healthcare in South Carolina, especially your district, which represents a good piece of Florence County. That's a lot of rural land out there, farmers and industry, thing like that, agriculture. Healthcare in South Carolina, we're at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to state. I mean, we ignore the expansion of Medicaid because it doesn't look good for some reason for us to take in free money from the federal government to expand
That's your
Medicaid
money
to cover
already.
services.
Yeah. It's our money. It's taxpayer money that we're turning down. It's not like the money's coming from, personally. It's taxpayer dollars that you're saying I do not want. And on top, we have women of color that are losing their lives at a high rate, one of the highest in South Carolina, with trying to bear a child. So there's no excuse that women should be dying at childbirth in the 21st century.
No, there really isn't. I constantly look at states like similar to South Carolina situation, Arkansas, Mississippi, Texas. We these are states that have an abundance of things like diabetes and the opioid crisis in states like ours, where there is federal funding available for some of these, I guess they're methadone clinics to help people get off of their addictions and things like that. And we're not taking advantage of that. We're literally not helping our own people here in South Carolina that, look, I'll be the first to say it. Addiction to me is not a choice. It's a disease. Whether it's alcoholism or it's drug addiction or these are things that can be combated with treatment of either a medical sense or in sometimes a therapy. These are solvable problems that science has already figured out how to help improve people's lives, and we're not doing it. And South Carolina needs representation of the people that are hurting themselves the most, not because they want to, but just because they can't help themselves.
My brother fell victim to the opioid crisis, and he couldn't get help until he moved to North Carolina, which their infrastructure was completely different and offered at least a little bit more help to get the help he needed, to get clean, to have those drug facilities, those sober living facilities. And here they do nothing. It's like you can go to a rehab that didn't work. Well, you're out. You're done. Like you're done.
Right. I would be the first to say South Carolina is far behind, and we can no longer progress with the good old boy system. We
Yeah.
have to change it. If we're saying that we want a better state, we have to think different, because right now you're going to continue to get what you have if you continue to do what you're doing. So we have to change what we're doing.
It's that
When
definition
I
of
was in the
insanity.
court system, we have babies that are born addicted to drugs because
Yeah.
the mother was on drugs. So are you saying because that baby had nothing to do with being addicted to drugs as a baby and now never got any help, now they grow up to be addicted to drugs as an adult because it was never ever attended to as a child. They just labeled that child as a problem child in school and never tried to find out, just like the shooting that we have today. A lot of this can be prevented because the signs are on the wall. It's
Yeah.
not like it just happened. The signs are there. We just ignore them. And then we say, oh, we're going to pray for the family.
That ain't enough.
No one wants to hear that.
Nope.
No
No.
one wants to hear that.
I'm still dumbfounded that in this day and age that we still have politicians that will just outright use this idea of, before we move on to trying to come up with a solution, let's give it some time because we don't want to turn it into a political issue. And I don't care how many times I hear it. Guns is a political issue.
Guns
In
is a
other
political
countries, where gun violence was a problem, they came up with bipartisan ways of resolving it. Australia took back almost every single firearm. The only in the UK, the only way to get a hold of, you can own a firearm, but you have to check it out. Or you have to use it at a gun range. If you're using it for
type
hunting,
of gun, has to be a certain caliber.
I just said that. I'm glad you said that. I just said that on a podcast on the gun show. It was like the AK-15s. Oh, we just want to use it for recreational. I said, okay. If that's truly what you're saying, that's all it's used for, then go to a shooting range and you have to check it out at that shooting range and then check it back in.
Yep.
They thought I was crazy. I was like, this is not hard.
but
Don't speak sense to those with nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, this is hard. I said, when I go to the fair, I go for recreational. I don't take the Ferris wheel home with me.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
And you know what? If you want, like we did this before, if you want to shoot a fully automatic weapon, go to the gun range and you could pay your $75 and get 5 automatic guns and get your jollies out on the gun range and turn them right back in like what you're talking about.
That's exactly. I did not know that was something that you all were saying as well, and it was laws in other countries, but that's exactly what I said.
Yeah. In the
Australia
UK,
only had to have one mass shooting to go, we want your guns, and Australians were just fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And there were people that fought against it. There were people that didn't like the idea, and there are exceptions to the law in Australia. There are people in Australia that do own the firearms that were used, a rifle that was used in that mass shooting at the I guess it was I can't remember the name of the town, but
it was Sydney, wasn't it?
But no, it was something church. It was outside. It wasn't like a heavily populated area, but the shooter killed a mass number of people. And as a whole, the country said, you know what? We don't want this to be we don't want this to be an endemic. We certainly don't want it to turn into a pandemic, which, here in the States feels like we're just on the verge of it. I'm not entirely certain as to how many shootings there have been this year, but I'm sure that it's more than the number of days that we've been through in the year.
That was
And probably more than last year.
365.
I mean, you hear
U.S.
that
has
number.
suffered 365 mass shootings.
And
And
you
of
could
course-
fairly, on average, round that up, the death toll to at least 2 times that number, at least.
Yeah, well, you have to have for it to be a mass shooting. I think that the FBI and the federal government has clearly defined that a mass shooting is now any shooting that or any shooting that creates at least 2 victims.
Mhm.
Right.
I believe at one point it used to be 4 victims, but they reduced it to 2 because
Right.
any number of victims because of a gun is too many as far as I'm concerned. But they did reduce it down to 2. So yeah, you're looking at the potential of there being 365 shootings, and we know more people were victims in many of those shootings
Right.
than just 2.
Exactly.
So you could easily multiply that number by 2 and be, yeah, this is still acceptable. This is still acceptable to some people, and it dumbfounds me that they're okay with it.
And there's people out there who don't need the power that a gun gives you.
Yeah.
One of my
Exactly.
favorite quotes is, "You give a man a little bit of power, he'll start thinking all kinds of things about himself." And a handgun
Just like
is an A to B.
constitutional carry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Constitutional carry was passed in South Carolina that anyone that's 18 years of age can have a gun openly.
Yep.
No concealed weapon permit, nothing.
Nothing.
They can't buy themselves a Truly, but they can go buy themselves a gun.
Exactly.
It's
Now they can't buy it at 18, but they can
Yeah.
have it.
yeah, they can
They
have it. Yeah, they can't buy it. They can have it.
I can't
know.
buy you a pack of cigarettes at 18, but I can buy you a gun.
That's true. You have to be 21 for cigarettes, don't you?
Exactly.
I-
And no one can buy you a pack of cigarettes.
At least if they had the cigarettes, they could chill out before they did something stupid.
Thank you.
So that brings me to the next topic, and this is a topic some politicians don't like talking about, or fear that there's retribution or there's going to be a reaction to it. But South Carolina it was a heavily agricultural state. We had cotton to tobacco. We don't have really a cotton industry as much as we had before. We don't have a tobacco industry like we had before because a lot of these have been shipped overseas. There is a huge hole in our agricultural industry here in South Carolina that marijuana could potentially fill that gap for hundreds and hundreds of farmers across the state. So the question is, what is your stance on the potential legalization, either recreationally or medicinally, of marijuana?
Well, I am all in favor of medical marijuana. I am. I don't know if our state is ready to legalize it, but I will fight like hell to make sure that it is decriminalized. We should not be arresting people for simple possession of marijuana.
Yeah.
That is not acceptable.
Agreed.
No.
Agreed.
Ruin lives
So-
over.
Yeah. I'm
Simple
like,
possession.
if you want to have the revenue, a civil offense, but no one should be arrested for simple possession of marijuana.
Yeah.
When other states have it legal. So you coming through South Carolina, it's legal where you came from. You get stopped. Now you're arrested.
Yeah.
But it's legal in the state. That is my medication. How are you arresting me for having my medication? That's like you arresting me for having my blood pressure pill.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is
It's
exactly
insane.
correct.
And then now you're in jail without your medicine. Like, come on.
Pressure gonna go up.
Yeah, exactly.
Something's going to take you. And
Yeah.
it's
If ain't
I
Bubba
am-
in the cell with you, it's the lack of medication.
that is one of the things that I fundamentally support is legalization of marijuana, only because I think that it would benefit it would benefit the state of South Carolina tremendously from a tax situation. It would increase our tourism, and honestly, there's not really enough research that's been done on marijuana, because we literally have one university in the entire country that does any research on marijuana. That's the University of Mississippi, and I don't know how they do it over the clanging of those bells. So
Yeah, not that I trust them at all.
My personal experience, working as a bond court judge, and I would
Yeah.
always tell when they would talk to me about marijuana, I said, well, I can only tell you my personal experience. Now, when someone came for a DUI charge or a public drunk, I said, with that charge, they probably had 10 more behind it. You had disorderly conduct, you had public drunk, you have trying to assault the police
Yeah,
officer
you're resisting arrest.
with the alcohol. I
Yeah.
said, if anybody came with simple possession of marijuana, that's all they came to court with.
That's
With simple
fair.
possession. There was no other charge behind it.
That's fair.
Are you? Let me ask you this. My mom always puts up the point when I talk to her. She goes, "I don't think marijuana is wrong, but the law is the law, and you broke. So someone went to jail, and you broke the law when it was the law, knowing it was the law. You still should serve what you did. Do you think that's a fair point?"
Well, the law is there's a fine, and I'm going to say we're talking about the law. If someone's simple possession, that's what we're talking about. So with simple possession, the law states you can get a fine, or you can get up to 30 days, or you can get both. So, or if you have a trial, we know that. But just say you're guilty. So I can give you the fine. I don't have to give you 30 days.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be arrested and do jail time for it because it's
Right.
a misdemeanor. Can't get any more than 30 days for it. Or you can get a fine. So I can say I'm suspending the 30 days and all you have to do is pay the fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be hard pressed to like you were saying, to find many people that were, let's say, high in public that put up much of a fight. And you know, I'm kind of speaking about myself. That you know, because it's not one of those things that like gets you angry and gets you in a fighting mood, you know. So, but in
Be weird
situations
if it
where,
did.
yeah, in situations where there is potentially violence associated with the possession crime, sure, I get it. I have no issue with someone being charged and prosecuted because of a violent act in association. You know, if they were pulled over because a police officer smelled marijuana and that was enough for them to pull them over, and they then got violent with the officer or resisted arrest or did something like that, sure, completely understandable. Absolutely prosecute them for the crime that they committed. Simple possession to me just doesn't feel like it's a crime, and it's hard to believe that we continue to have that system. But I also have to acknowledge that arresting someone under simple possession, the likelihood is that in a lot of places they are going to be prosecuted, and it's not necessarily because it was such a minor. It's not because it wasn't just a minor crime, but it's because there is a statute of racism attached to marijuana, especially here in South Carolina. South Carolina arrests more black men in this state for simple possession without violence, without anything else attached to it. And a lot of that is because prisons in this country are owned by corporations that need free
It
labor.
should never be the case.
It should never be the case.
Drug crimes in this country continue, especially in South Carolina, continue to be the gateway to slavery. Is what I see.
And you're speaking the truth. That's the truth. It's sad, but it's the truth.
There's that prison in Arizona, and I think DMX had to go to it. But it's a privately owned prison, and the whole point is to embarrass these inmates after they're already in prison for the crime they committed. So that you're doing your time. But not only that, they're making them wear pink like uniforms, and then they have to go out and do these like shows and stuff. Like here I am, you're, I don't know, in school when y'all were in school, but they used to bring prisoners out there, and you look at them like, you don't want to be like these guys and all this stuff. And I'm just like, they're human beings. There's a dignity to it.
Exactly.
if you're in jail paying for your crime, you're paying for your crime already. You don't need to go the extra mile to
Right.
humiliate a human being.
I know my opponent has labored me as soft on crime.
As a
And
magistrate
speaking
judge.
as a magistrate judge, I said, we don't give any more than 30 days. How soft can we get?
I mean, yeah, look, if you want to point out the obvious, I'm also a woman and I'm black and I drive a car and come on.
Yeah, I said, the max that we can give you is 30 days. And if you come in with 3 offenses, we might be able to give you 90 at the max, but that's it. I'm like, how soft can that get? But the moral of the story is because when an individual come before me, just like I'm talking to you, I talk to that individual the same way. To your point, Zach, I'm not trying to humiliate anyone. I'm not trying to degrade anyone. I'm just talking to them just like I'm talking to you. And with that being said, I get respect and they get respect, and we have a dialogue that now it looks like I'm soft on crime because I have someone talking to me in a sensible way.
How dare you treat
Because
them as they're
that's
a
what I
person?
did to them.
Yeah. That's at the same time that's somebody's son, somebody's mother, somebody's father. That is somebody who is loved. And being over exaggerated with any kind of punishment it's insane to me.
It's not going to fix something. I mean,
Mm-mm.
we already suffer from our prison system and our jails not being centers of reformation. They're not, or not reformation. Maybe it is reformation. Is that the word I'm thinking of? Reform. We don't use our detention centers as places where we're trying to get people to be better or to
Exactly.
a lot of times people come out of these jails and prisons worse than they were before. Their associations have built with people that are more criminal,
with a disdain for the institution that put them there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I think so that moves into criminal justice reform. South Carolina is in desperate need of criminal justice reform. What would be your approach as a state senator, especially with magistrate, judge experience?
Exactly. I was listening to our federal government, and we have a program, Back on Track. And I said, are we even implementing that here in our state? So I said, we don't really have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to enforce some of the programs that are already there. So it's not like, hey, Belinda, you're going to Columbia to make new laws with justice reform. We just need to act on the laws that we already have and the programs that are already in place. Yeah. So if we have Back on Track, that's a federal program, which is for anyone, any state can use. Why are we not using this program to help people get back on track?
One of the smartest things I heard a candidate say was that, so the question was asked about criminal justice reform, and he said, what would be your approach? And he said, well, we'll just look at it the same way that states like California and Colorado and Chicago or Illinois, we have examples of prisoner or criminal justice reform that is working. Why would we try and reinvent it? Let's take a look at their approaches, figure out how that works with our budget, and then do that.
That's exactly. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. We just, look at other counties, look at other states that's working, and say, hey, we need to bring this to South Carolina, because there's enough business and laws that we have to deal with. So that's making up another one when it's working somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's why we need a woman.
That's exactly right. The willingness to accept that someone else might have done it and might have done it better. Let's you. Yeah.
Right. And we had Sheriff Leon Lott, Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott on. And I do think he talked about that program a little bit, that if it's a first time drug offender, that the back on track was that they would impose like basically a bunch of community service and things like that, but not necessarily ruin the life of the person. And that's even, opioid users and things like that. To go, here's your one chance, and make it very clear that this is your one chance, but give them a pathway to success to get them back. And I believe he really said back on track program. So I think Richland County might be trying to use that, because Leon Lott, very, very awesome.
One of the avenues that we need to capitalize on is apprenticeship. Whenever having someone to work for pay. So whenever they are getting out back in the world, that they will have skill.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot when I was fine court judge and they come back before me and they say, Judge, I tried hard, but I could not get a job. And I believe them. They've like, I went everywhere and nobody would hire me. So what else are they left to do?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
when they truly is trying to do what's right, but they can't get a job.
And to get those records expunged, any charges and things could cost a lot of money, if I understand correctly as well, to go through the entire process.
They're not saying they're trying to be a medical doctor, do surgery.
Right. That's exactly
They can make them McChickens. It would be easy. They could do it.
Yeah, but we can't have this expectation that everyone that comes out of jail after serving their time, doing the time for the crime they committed, we can't have this expectation that they should all just go work at McDonald's.
No, that's fair.
That's not a viable solution for anybody.
Right.
Right.
And they have lots of skills.
And
when I say talent, lots of talent.
Yeah.
That anyone would absolutely benefit from having them. Lots of talent. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, I've seen it too. My family members who've been, gone through the justice system, and every job he has to find, he kind of has to be one of those prove yourself, go do it, and then if he's given the chance to prove himself, they're like, it's a shining star of a guy who can frame your entire house or build your entire deck in a minute, and it's perfect. Like, just has that skill. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But we're talking, and we shouldn't even have this discussion.
Right.
We can elect a president that is convicted of 34 counts, not charged. There's a difference in being charged and convicted.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He is convicted of 34 counts, but he can run for the highest office in the state. The highest
doesn't own a
job,
gun, but can control the military.
the highest job in the here in the United States. But I can't get out and go work a job, a decent paying living job.
Imagine telling a convicted felon, your everyday Joe, you know what? You should run for president. Because you could get that.
That's one of those things.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, that's one of those things I come back to is if Donald Trump were convicted of half of those, if he was convicted of 17 and he was jobless and tried to get the job of a janitor at a public school, he could not get hired. But we will elect him without, not with no looking into his background, without looking into what crimes they were that he committed. He could not get a job as a janitor at a public school because he has those convictions. But our Constitution allows for him to run for federal office. He's been impeached from the job twice. Yes. And I get that he wasn't convicted of that impeachment. That to me is a formality. He was impeached from his job, one, for trying to establish a quid pro quo on a an ally, a country
Yes.
that we signed the Budapest Accord with to protect
Yes.
them from the Russians, and then for inciting a riot that led to an insurrection against the Capitol that literally put his own vice president almost in a hangman's noose.
Yes.
You know,
he is a walking special pleading fallacy because he probably could not get hired at his own companies that he owns.
Well, his is just a mom and pop
lost
store.
Their lives on January the 6th.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as a
And
result,
there's people that are not the same people. The police officer who got tased in the base of his skull. His mental anguish has altered him as a human being. And
Yes.
all at the behest of a walking fallacy, a felon.
yeah.
It's like,
Well,
We're
the
in
last
a sad state.
the last
And
the
that's
last thing
why we have to elect more people like Belinda Timmons
that's right.
to the Senate
That's right.
Yeah.
that
Well,
actually have a heart for the people and
People
not
with a
in it
heart and
for
common
selfish
sense.
gain.
absolutely.
the last thing I want to discuss before we move on to our 7 questions is you, like Zach and I, are the representation of a public education. And you correct me if I pronounce this wrong. Latta High School or Latta High School?
Latta
High School.
Latta. Yeah.
The Vikings.
The Vikings, the Latta Vikings.
There is a lot of emphasis on the Latta Vikings High School. I see this. All of the research I did, it was Latta High School this or the Vikings, Latta High School Vikings. I mean, what is the prestige of having graduated from Latta High School?
Latta High School, if you was a graduate from Latta High School, you knew you came out with an education.
Okay.
That's as clear as I can put it.
Okay. No, that's valid.
You came out with an education.
Let me tell you about
And
my
Latta
education.
High School made sure that no child was left behind. And
Gotcha.
you came out with a good education. You were not just passed through the system. When you walked across that stage, you earned that diploma.
I gotcha. Go ahead.
I went to
Zach.
Chapin High School. I had a handful of awesome teachers that I still remember this to this day. Chapin High School, just to show you where their priorities are, spent $8.5 million on a press box for their football stadium.
That's a Division 4A school there, Zach? Is that a...
It's a 5A now.
5A school. 5A school. Yeah. How many state championships
I just could think of
got?
8.5 million other reasons and places to spend that money.
There was a time when I worked in Chapin where for several years, as I drove past Chapin High School, I would see all of the trailers in the parking lot.
Oh yeah, those are Don't expand the school. Put portables out there.
And then came to find out that the school expansion that did occur was as a result of these trailers in the parking lot.
Taking up senior parking.
That were empty and not used. It was completely staged so that they could get money, and that money then went to.
They weren't empty.
Yeah. Oh well. Back in 2008, I
graduated in 07. So.
Okay. Well, regardless, there was money that went to their football field, and they expanded like the arts center. I think it was.
I implore, the fine arts building. I implore both of y'all to Google this new $8.5 million press box and how it sits on top of. Sorry for no better language, a turd of a stadium that is full of rust. Like there's this beautiful box and this just rusty, awful stadium. It towers the school, and I'm just like, teachers aren't getting paid enough. You were getting secondhand textbooks the entire time that are at least 3 years old, and you get $8.5 million to play football. Now, I love football. I got Shane Beamer sitting right behind me. I love my football. But if you told me that people were going to go without a quality education because of football, I'd be like, we could not play football. We could not play football all day because it matters. That matters. It just blows my mind. And other schools and within District 5 are mad about them getting this press box. And I'm like, you should be mad about it being a press box, like it being anything that you spend $8.5 million on to deal with sports. Sports can be important for certain things, but I guarantee a $1 million press box would have been nice. And then you have $7.5 million to go put into education.
I'll just ask you this, Belinda. Vouchers or no?
No.
Okay. That's all you had to say. That's all you had to say.
Public funds need to stay with public schools. And if you want to send your children to private school, I'm not against that either, but not with public funds.
Nope.
Totally agree. All right. Well, Belinda, we have loved having you on the show, but now is the time that we have to ask you the really hard questions.
Oh,
and
cue the music.
All right. So this is our 7 questions, and this gives us a little bit more insight into who you are.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So the 7 questions. So the first question, what was the last thing that you Googled?
The school shooting.
Okay.
Fair enough.
It was an important event that occurred today, and again, tragic. So yeah, absolutely. I think, did you learn about it when we were on the phone earlier?
I did, because I didn't watch TV today, didn't turn on any TV, had some interviews earlier, trying to clean the house and do it all, run for campaign, be a wife, cleaning, and
busy.
I can't even imagine. I told you, I'm not a candidate because of a lot of those things, especially the being the wife thing. That's toughest. All right. Second question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower. Making the world a better place.
Okay.
Everybody just loving each other.
I think, Zach, that kind of pushes into your Dr. Manhattan situation, you think?
It could. We'll take it.
Yeah. All right.
Approved.
Question number 3. If your life were a movie, what would the title be?
I love Jeannie.
Oh, all right.
Like it.
That is good. All right. This is question number 4. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Another fried chicken. I do that now.
Okay.
That's a
specifically,
fantastic answer.
In your district, who has, and I don't want to alienate anybody, so you don't have to answer this question, but is there a spot that is the best fried chicken spot?
Always go to Jumpin' Jay's.
Okay.
Jumpin' Jay's here in Florence.
See,
we're coming to Florence. We're going to Buc-ee's and then Jumpin' Jay's.
Yeah.
Yep, Jumpin' Jay's.
How, see, because Zach and I will always name the same, I suspect we'd always name the same best fried chicken in South Carolina, Columbia area. The Quick Way.
Now, when I go to Columbia, I go to Rush's Fried Chicken.
Rush's Fried Chicken is good.
Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice.
Yeah.
There is a place that is on Highway 76 as you are going between Ballantyne and Chapin.
It's White Rock, South Carolina.
Okay. So White Rock. It's a Quick Way. It's a gas station, but they have the most phenomenal fried chicken I've ever had in my entire life. So when you come to Columbia, after you get elected, you call me. I'll pick you up at the State House. We'll pick up Zach on the way, and we'll go up to Quick Way.
Okay.
It's a gas station
because I can eat fried chicken every day.
I'm telling you, it is the house that built me. Like it is. They have. It is. I've eaten it for 30 years. If you even past White Rock, you have to stop it.
Man.
All right. 5th question. What is your least favorite candy and why?
My least favorite candy. I do not like the mint patties.
Oh.
You know, the chocolate mint patties.
Yeah.
That's
Junior
fair.
mints and I get it. I understand. It is a weird combination. It is an odd combination.
Yeah.
We had a recent guest who told us chocolate. Period. Like
it was.
I don't like the
who
mint
was that?
patties.
David Robinson. David
Was it
Robinson
David?
last week. He told us he
said
not.
he
He just
like
doesn't like chocolate. He's not a
chocolate.
chocolate fan.
You can not
I'm
prefer
like
chocolate,
that mint
but
chocolate.
not mint chocolate. Fair enough.
All right. Question number 6. What is one strange or unusual talent that you have that no one knows? Or that few people
Carpentry.
know? Carpentry. Really?
Oh,
That is...
what's the last thing you built as a carpenter?
My signs, my big signs.
That's
Nice.
awesome. That is
Awesome.
awesome. How long have you been doing carpentry?
Oh, ever since probably the third, no, younger than that. Maybe in the first grade. I was born in Jersey City, and
Okay.
we used to have to take what you call shop class,
Yep.
and that's when I started learning how to use tools.
There you
That
go.
was a class that I decided to take. We could have taken homemade, but for some reason I didn't see that being exciting. So
Sure.
that's what
I think that's the best answer we've ever had. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
carpentry's pretty cool. Carpentry's pretty
Yep.
cool. My grandfather loved working with wood tools, and I mean, he had so much in the way of like saws and things like that I look
That's it.
back at the stuff that he used
Yeah.
to do, and we've got Zach and I have a mutual friend. Her husband did, I think, all of the non-sofa, I guess, all the things in their living room, like the table and things like that,
Yes.
and they look phenomenal. So
That's me.
really cool.
When I go to someone's house, I'm looking at the wood and the detail. I'm not looking at the decoration. I'm looking at how did you cut that
Yeah.
piece of wood.
Yeah.
Well,
How can
we
I
could have done
how
this
can I
trim with
reproduce this?
a gravel bit.
Yeah.
We could have gone up that.
Yeah,
All right,
that's normally what I'm looking at.
There
last
you go.
question. If you could have dinner with any 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be?
Any three?
Any 3.
Bonus points
Um,
for me or Barrett.
Barack Obama and Michelle, and I'm gonna throw my husband in there as a guest.
Okay. That's you know what? That's not a bad list. I imagine that your husband probably would not like being left out of those dinner plans.
I know, because after I leave the other 3, I got to come back home, so I think I better take them with me.
You know what? That is so far the safest answer we've had.
I'll tell you this, Belinda. When after maybe 6 months of Trump's presidency, I would just go back and watch Obama's speeches just to be like, I remember how a president should speak. This was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're family.
Yeah.
It's like that I could go out to dinner with them and be Belinda
Yeah.
and just really have a good time. Because
Yeah.
you don't want to go out with somebody famous and you got to be stiff. You kind of waste your time with going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. I feel like dinner with Donald Trump would probably be a very stiff dinner because you're just gonna
Yeah.
have to listen to him talk.
I'd be arrested at the end of it. So
Probably.
yeah.
Well, Belinda Timmons, thank you very much for being on the show with us.
Thank
Phenomenal
you.
candidate. We definitely want to make sure that everyone gets this information. BelindaForSenate.com is where you can find her platform. You can find links for donation, volunteering. I assume volunteering is definitely something you all are looking for as well, because I know we are.
Yes.
So please go to BelindaForSenate.com. It's where you can find all the information. You can follow her on all the social medias. She has an outstanding group of people that are volunteering for her currently, but there's always room for more, especially
Yes.
canvassing. District 31 is not small, as
No.
most of the Senate districts aren't, but it's a very large district. There's a
It
lot
is. I want to believe we have about 40, maybe a little more than 40,000 people just in that district. Probably
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Well,
No.
it is a district that has not been represented well in the last several years, and it's time for it to be. So Belinda Timmons for Senate, again, District 31, that's Florence County. So please make sure to go to BelindaForSenate.com. Also, if you haven't already, do it before, do it now, do it later. You want to check your voter registration because there's no telling
Yes.
what's happened. You can go to theallaboutnothing.com/voter where you can check your voter registration. Make sure there's no hijinks going on. Make sure that you are going to the same precinct. Go ahead and plan out how you're going to vote either early or on November 5th, because if you don't, something could derail you and you don't show up. This election's too important to not show up for.
And your vote does matter. Don't be one of those squares thinking it doesn't, because it absolutely does. Us who are voting the right way want you to help us.
Yeah,
So
that's right. That's exactly right. All right. Well, that is going to do it for episode number 223. Again, Belinda, thank you very much for being on the show with us.
Thank you
Yes,
for
Belinda,
having
thank you
me,
so much.
Barrett and Zac. Thank you so much.
We absolutely look forward to having you on again, especially after you get elected, and then when you start
yes.
showing up in the Senate during the session, then we want access to that Senate lunch. I've heard lots of things. Not great.
You will definitely be invited.
It's fantastic. All right. Links to past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, and social media are all available at our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger and support the show monthly? Members get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content, or you can make a one-time donation through the same link. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call and leave us a message, 803-672-0533. You can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com, or you can join our Discord server. Links available at theallaboutnothing.com. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. You all stay safe, be kind, and
Hey, keep your hands to yourself.
there it is.
The All About Nothing podcast is produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. I am Barrett Gruber. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Barrett Gruber, or visit my Linktree /Barrett Gruber. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available, including memberships that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. Visit theallaboutnothing.com. To find links to our social media, merchandise, and past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be heard on the show, you can call and leave us a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our partner podcast. Zach and I host What the Pod Was That with Carrie Simmons. Visit whatthepodwasthat.com for links and details. Me takes a deep dive down the rabbit hole in episodes of Welcome to Wonderland. Available on all the podcast platforms. Visit WTWLpod.com for details. As well, you can listen to the political and social conversation between Dr. Jamela Brooks and Bill Kimmler on Black, White, and Blue in the South, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please like and hit the notification bell. Thank you for listening. The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media and copyright 2024, all rights reserved.